Hello, welcome back to the PoddiMouths podcast. I am Peyton Cubic, and this is where my dad and his friend John talk about random stuff in life or the things they found on the internet. I hope you enjoy listening to this episode as much as I did. Here they are now.
We can definitely slide that into the conversation.
We'll see what happens.
Exactly. It's
welcome to PoddiMouths. We'll see what happens.
Hey, thanks. I feel so welcome now. That's our new slogan. You know, we've been around for almost 7 years now. We'll be starting our 7th year pretty soon.
Right.
And maybe that's our new, we redo the logo and redo the slogan and say, you know.
PoddiMouths. Let's see what happens.
Exactly. I think that's, imagine the possibilities when it comes to marketing. That would be fantastic.
Lord knows that's special.
It is special.
Well,
it'll
be fun. And any of our listeners and viewers, if you want to give us ideas about how we might revamp it, that might be a fun way to go about it as well. But that's going to be our working title is let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. I like it. I like it a lot. I do have to, I would be remiss if I didn't do this right up front. Give a shout out to Mr. Eric Nathan for no other reason, just to shout him out, than to just shout him out.
And plus he also sent us, he texted us my LinkedIn photo.
Profile picture, yeah. The fact that it has the Harley Davidson there, no, I'm not trying to get a job anywhere specific.
No, I don't want to work there anyway. I gave them a chance and they said, sorry, you're too old.
Oh,
and I said, okay,
that's harsh.
That's fine.
That's harsh.
Well, no, and they didn't say that because they can't.
Right.
But the first time I applied, honestly, okay, so I can tell you about this because I own a Harley Davidson. I'm a customer, so I can, it's not like they're going to call me. Maybe they will. They'll say, hey, we were listening to your podcast.
It's exceptional.
Yes, right.
We're still waiting to see what happens.
We want you to do podcasts. Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. I was on the phone with them the first time, like probably 2020 or something like that. And it was back in COVID time. And that was a question that they asked in the phone interview was, have you had the vaccination?
I remember you telling me that.
Nope. And I'm not going to get it. And that was sort of the beginning of the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's fine. And that's sadly, that was kind of the corporate structure, not at Harvard necessarily specifically.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Well, and you've noticed a lot of companies specifically, and this is the one thing that as a marketer, it makes me cringe when you look at companies trying to be something and they completely ignore their customer base. Tractor Supply, as the example.
Gosh.
I mean,
yes.
the whole DEI thing.
Well, you can start with Bud Light and you can, and as you said, Tractor Supply. And what's the most recent one that
John Deere.
John Deere.
Yeah.
And my sister and brother-in-law work for John Deere. I know I'm almost positive Jan was there 38 years.
Wow.
And I think Gary was there the same 38, 40 years and maybe 35. They retired young. But yeah, and it would never cross their minds.
No.
Ever. This is Waterloo, Iowa.
Right.
Is the headquarters. And you kind of go,
and that's,
do you not know where you live?
I am in no way, and I know our audience, so they don't really care, but I am in no way knocking DEI or anything that, for certain companies. All I'm saying, all I'm saying is know your customers and know what your customers want.
So that's the point. And if your customers are primarily those who would like to see you, the majority of your customers would like to see you engage in diversity, equity, and inclusion, or would like to see you engage in LGBTQAI. I don't know all the letters. Forgive me.
Yeah.
No, don't forgive me because I don't really care.
Yeah, I know.
And that's fine. If your customers require that, then that's great.
Yeah.
If they don't, however, as you said, Nick, if you don't know your customer base, look, what these marketers forget is that there is an opposite reaction to any action you take.
Exactly.
And if you can survive that reaction, then it's a good decision.
Yeah.
If you don't know or you ignore that potential reaction, as is the case with a lot of these companies, think Bud Light, think Target, think some of these other companies that have gone through this pushback to exactly what you said, not understanding your customer base, then you're going to be out of business and you will lose money. And again, Bud Light still has not recovered. And I don't know as they ever will.
They went from the number one beer brand to number 3, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you've been number 1 for a long time, sliding down to number 3, that's a huge deal.
Well,
that's millions upon millions upon millions of dollars.
It's actually billions when you look at what they have lost in their value. And it's it's a bigger corporation. Obviously, it's BevMo or whatever it's called. InBev. Thank you very much. From not Germany, Australia, or Austria.
Austria.
Austria, I think is correct. Australia. I think that's what it is.
I have heard people when you talk about Austria go, "G'day, mate."
Yes, that's so. Oh my God! Think Arnold. Think Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Exactly.
Anyway, but it's not. This is not what we planned on starting off on. But hey, let's see what happens.
Exactly.
But it's an important point, and I don't get it, because you'll get these marketers who come on. I'm a VP of marketing, and this is what we're going to do because we want to open up to new customers. What about the ones you already have?
Yeah.
What about them?
Yeah.
Are you willing to just give them up and go on to somebody else? Why?
And there's nothing wrong with opening yourself up to new customers, obviously. But you know who's done it?
Negative impact.
You know who's done it, and I'm not even going to say 100% correctly.
Yeah.
But who has actually done it well, in my opinion? And I don't credit this company for a lot, because I'm sorry, they're not the greatest in the world.
Okay.
But Stellantis or CDJR or one of these companies, like Jeep. Jeep was a very specific product that very specific types of people, people like me, like to drive. They like to putz on them, like to build them. But I think they've done a good job of keeping that core for the most part. I'm sure they've lost people. I know they have. I mean, they lost me on the JK, so it happens. But they have done so well with their product that it not only still has the core, but it's broadened itself to quite a few more people. I don't remember if it was you and I who were talking about it, or if it was another conversation I was having outside of it. But if you look at it and you see someone driving a Sahara 4xe, it's probably going to be a woman for the most part. It's a quote unquote, and this is someone else quoting it, a girly car.
Okay.
Whereas if you see someone driving a Rubicon 392, it's probably some dude with a long beard and a hat. I mean, they know the market, and they've expanded it well enough without losing their customer base.
That's just it. It's and whatever the 4xe would be. You said Sahara. Is that what you?
Sahara. Yeah.
Sahara,
I have a Rubicon.
Rubicon, because you're manly, right? I understand.
Exactly.
4xe guys. They have sort of manly. Yeah. Just kidding. They have not alienated their other customers,
right,
by customizing certain models. And so then you're doing two things well, and that makes perfect sense to me. But when you just dump a segment of your existing clientele because you want a different clientele, or you foresee that, and Harley Davidson, we go back to them. It's been a challenge for them too. And I don't think I have to tell anybody that. Look at their stock portfolio value over the years. And I love my Harley Davidson. It's a great bike. It's crazy expensive. So are Jeeps.
Yes.
Okay. And that is all fine. But now you have somebody like me, who rides one of their most expensive models, and I enjoy riding, and it's great. And I like the whole lifestyle sort of thing. I like their dealerships because they're kind of set up like that. But when their advertising is pointed out to a market they don't own yet, and it's specifically to that market. So these younger guys, now their ads, their print ads, I'll look at some of them, and it's these kids, it's 20 somethings wearing slim cut shirts that 98% of the riders are never going to fit into. Well, let's say 85% of the riders aren't going to fit into. So you can't alienate one segment. You can do both things well. You have to do them both well. But that's the perfect example. And Harley has done some of that well when it comes out to their new models.
Mm-hmm.
Their
electric bike.
Well, no, because that was too expensive, and so that was bad market data that they utilized. I think the idea was good, but it's not that much different from Cadillac saying they're going to go all electric. Well, guess what? No, they're not.
No.
And I said that when they said it on the day they announced. Mary Barra said Cadillac is going to be all electric by 2030 or whatever date into the infinite future. Yeah. And I said, no, they're not, because they will lose money and they will go out of business.
Yes.
And for them not to be able to see that is
let's look at it from this perspective, because I still technically work for an OE, and the one thing I can tell you about a lot of the people that I interact with, fantastic people, they have all of the best intentions, but a lot of them have never driven anything other than the OEM vehicle, and very, very rarely, unless they're a field person, and even at that point, they very rarely go into a dealership to buy a car. So they don't really know
they don't
the
understand
buying experience,
customer experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a detriment in my opinion, because you can't know your customer if you have never been one.
Exactly.
And the same with dealerships. I mean, there have been people that have spent their entire life in a dealership, and I'm one of them. I explain this when I'm having conversations with dealer. I say I buy differently. I buy a car differently. I know the car I want. I know the style I want. I send the information to the dealer saying, here's the lease structure I want, or the payment, or the purchase structure I want. This is my credit. This is everything. I want to be in and out in 20 minutes. I tell them that.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm in and out in 20 minutes, and that's my structure. That's because I know, because I work in it every day. Customers don't do that. If a customer's into a dealership often, that usually means they're in there every 3 years, maybe, to return their lease and pick up a new car. Maybe, obviously, they're in there for service, but that's not their main goal when they're there. It's not to learn how to buy a car.
Well, and this is not just automotive, but specifically automotive too. You have to do many things well.
Yes.
Because not everybody buys the same way. Not everybody buys the same thing. You're talking about a lease. I've leased 20-some cars, and I know you've leased many as well. But I've also bought a lot of pre-owned vehicles. And I buy pre-owned completely differently than I buy a new or lease a new car. Well, you do if things like, how many owners and has it had an accident, and is that important to you? If you're buying pre-owned, it's important to me.
Yeah. And this is somewhere I know you and I differ too. A new car, which I made the mistake with the Jeep, so I will say I made that mistake. But with a new car, I don't really feel the need to test drive it. Whereas on a used car, I'm going to test drive every single one of them.
Well, for sure, on a used car, there's no arguing that. On a new car, I mean, only if I haven't driven it before. I mean, if I've never experienced that vehicle, sure, I want to drive it. But if I have, and you're just going from one vehicle to a different one, I'm with you. I don't necessarily need to drive it. But I also know that if there's going to be a problem with it, it's new. It's going to be fixed.
Right. Exactly.
Under warranty.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Sure. Yep. That's for sure. But it's the point is, as a dealership, and honestly, as any business, you have to be able to do many things well. And so my contact with the dealer when I bought our most recent car was using an aggregator, which was Car Gurus, and Auto Trader. I used them both. And I was looking at vehicles that way and doing research that way. And it followed up with a phone call finally. And is this one still there? And are you going to be there? And we set an appointment and came in. I would have liked to have been out of there in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I had no intention of buying when we went in, just because, long story short, we're leaving town. We had blah, blah, blah stuff going on. But they wanted to move the car.
Of course they did.
And finally their price reflected that, as I thought it should. And so, long story short, we ended up doing that. But anyway, the point behind it is you have to be good at the phone. You have to be good at responding to email inquiries, to website inquiries, to quoting payment inquiries, things like that. And if you're not good at all of them, you're not going to get the business you're entitled to.
Exactly. I 100% agree. And, you know, so talking about the dealership, going to the dealership, I am dealership from a personal level, obviously not a professional, because if I was dealership averse as a professional, I wouldn't have a job.
Sure.
But I'm dealership adverse when it comes to buying a car. Like, I do not go to the dealership. Everything has got to be done ahead of time. And here's why. I am the worst person to sell to because you'll be able to sell me. So Jen doesn't know what she likes, and she wants to go test drive cars. She wants to go to multiple different OEM lots and drive cars. And I'm like, honey, I'm sorry.
She's old school. Yeah.
That's not how it is. It's not how it works. You honestly, can you tell me honestly, John, in your years in the business, can someone actually go to a lot and test drive a car and then go to another lot, especially in today's society, and go test drive a different brand? In reality,
can they? Sure,
but
it doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't happen very often because if salespeople are good, which I'm hoping that if you're at a dealership, at least one salesperson there is really good, you're not leaving. You're buying
Hopefully
a car.
Not. It depends, unless there was something about that vehicle you didn't like.
Yeah,
even then,
a good salesperson will flip you onto something else.
Potentially, if they have something that fits what you want.
Fair enough.
There's nothing's 100%, but you have to have layers to appeal to people like Jen, to people like you, and somebody like me. When we buy in different ways, you need to be able to customize your process. And it starts from a marketing perspective right at the beginning, or you'll never get a shot at them in the first place. If you suck on the phone, if your people are bad on the phone, you won't even know you missed that business.
That's true.
They'll just hang up and call somewhere else. So that's the really expensive customer. It's not the one who comes in and we couldn't close them. It's the one you never know about.
That's exactly it. 100 million, 10 million%.
Hey,
110 million.
That's going to be a new saying. 1 billion%. And then, you have that one with a billion.
Yeah. No, so I tell Jen, if she wants to look at a certain car, let's go rent one. Let's go to National and rent one, because I am not taking you to a dealership. We were at the airport actually dropping off a rental, and she wanted to go to the Mercedes dealer. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the Mercedes. I do not want to get out of the car.
Yeah.
But so I drove, and we actually went, and I drove into the back where I knew the service
area
was.
Man. You're like an old man. I do not want to get out of the car.
No, I'm not. Well, I don't want to be sold. I will be sold.
See, I want to be sold. When I go into a dealership, I like to tease them, and I'm fine with that. But on the other hand, at some point, if I like the car well enough, show me how good you are. Because if you're not, I'll still go somewhere else. And,
I'm taking that one. And if you can't make the deal work, I'm gone. That's me.
Yeah, I got it.
But the problem is, if I go to a dealership and I say, I want that one, but I'm not ready to buy, I'll end up driving away in that car later that day, because that's how bad I am. I'm not very good at saying no. And I hate that about myself.
Well, actually, that's what Jen told me. That's how you guys got together.
Well, yeah, it's not actually far off. I'm kidding.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Kidding, honey.
So moving on from buying stuff. So I have a question for you. And this is a question I pose to a lot of my dealers. And it's something we as a team talk about too. In my day job is, what, besides the automotive industry, and I'm asking this question because you had mentioned Car Gurus and Auto Trader. Besides the automotive industry and besides real estate, can you think of any other industry out there that sells specifically online and uses third-party tools for research and to drive traffic to their website?
Well, I'm sure there are. I would say
it's hard, isn't it?
Well, it is. Although, aggregators are aggregators. You can Amazon is an aggregator,
technically,
although
but they don't
you can
send you
sell
to someone's. Yeah, they sell right from there.
They keep you there. That's the key part about what their model is. I don't know, and I would say there are two high dollar things that consumers buy in their lives, and it's a house and it's
a car. Yep.
Yeah. So not off the top of my head. What are some others that you're asking?
I can't think of any. No, I seriously can't think of any. And well, that's part of it is when I get into a conversation about SEO and SEM, that's basically where that comes in. It's how do these companies actually attract customers when they don't have third-party aggregators? And that's because they spend a lot of time and a lot of money and put a lot of effort into their SEO and their SEM.
Yes,
I'm oversimplifying, obviously, but
for sure. But well, SEO is a standalone as far as I'm concerned. You can't run the risk of saying, you know what, I don't really care about SEO, because yes, you do.
Yes, you do. You have
SEM.
SEM is ungodly expensive if you don't have good SEO.
Oh my gosh! Well, and it doesn't work. It's ineffective too. Not only is it expensive, it doesn't work.
Yep.
But for aggregators, they're expensive too.
Yeah.
The question is, what's the experience going to be when they connect with you? And the good aggregators, frankly, have and listeners and viewers, if you're not familiar with the whole aggregator term, it's just where, like a Car Gurus, for example, has many dealers represented, many vehicles represented. So people will go there because they'll have more selection. That's what attracts them there. But dealers pay for that exposure as well. It's advertising essentially for them. But you can do everything from, you end up getting referred to the dealership in almost every case, but you can actually contact them through the aggregator, which probably is the way that most people do it, and wait for a response back or a phone call back or whatever. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened. We bought our last one was I submitted a lead, quote unquote, and they phoned me and they were quick. They had a good process in place, and it was nice. And that gives you some insight into what the experience is going to be like if they have a process, a plan, and it seems like it's well executed. And this dealership did well with that.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Because that, by the way, that is my day job. Was John's day job for many, many years, is to make sure dealers did have that kind of response, and is good for those customers. So,
well, and as a customer, you can see the importance of it for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, the other reason I ask is we had mentioned before we got on the podcast, I had asked you if you've ever heard of Landio. That's spelled Landio. While we go to landio.com.
Awesome.
And so Landio is a newer, and I say that because I'm sure it's been around for probably 10 years now, but it's an aggregator of sorts for property.
Yes, you mentioned this to me some time ago.
Yeah, and so there's one that came up that I'm interested in.
Oh boy, here we go.
I'm not going to do it because I've already said that I don't have the ability to leave the state of Tennessee, specifically Middle Tennessee, for many, many years. But they had one that was popped up, and it's 543 acres in New Mexico that backs up to 25,000 acres of the Santa Fe National Forest. And it's right next to another BLM chunk of land.
Is it like, and it's and let me guess at the price. It's $30,000.
Oh, I wish. No, it's a little bit more expensive. They do have some that are that cheap, and that's why I like Landio.
But I'd be scared. Scared to look at the land.
Yeah,
I'd be scared.
I would too. But this one's really pretty. This one's really pretty, and it's $444,000.
For that kind of acreage, it doesn't
543 acres.
Gosh, yeah.
That's cheap. That's cheap.
Unless it's desert.
It is. Well, it is desert, but it's not necessarily. I would say if you need to compare it to something,
yes,
it's kind of like hill country in Texas.
Okay. Well, that's
kind of what it looks like.
Hill country in Texas reminds me of, oddly enough, of like east of the Black Hills in South Dakota.
Yeah.
It's just that rolling, not much there. It's desolate sort of, but it's still pretty to look at.
Yeah, it's very pretty. And this one, this land, look for 543 acres bordering 25,000 acres of national forest near the Pecos River.
Do I have to say all that?
Probably.
It's probably buy, sell, feature a property.
It's in New Mexico. Yeah, buy property.
Okay.
I mean, the first one came up for me.
What is it? 543?
Yeah.
Acres. New Mexico, San Miguel.
Yep, San Miguel County, 444.
Right, let's just take a look at this. Hey, if you're listening or watching, you're really enthused by this right now. But let me tell you, there's a YouTube video, and it's scrub. It's scrub land. That's all it is. It is
scrub land, but it's got some nice areas. I mean, it is 500 views. Yeah,
mountain views.
You're not going to get the most beautiful pieces of land here because they really do focus on inexpensive land.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And there's some. You've got 35 acres in Colorado with some really nice mountain views, but the property's flat. But that one's only $50,000.
Wow, 35 acres. Really?
Yeah.
And it's a mountain view? The other thing I get concerned about with some of these, and there are other sites as well, is that you don't have access to the land. You need road access, and you don't have an easement.
Yeah. Are you looking at the Colorado one?
I'm not. I'm looking at the San Miguel one.
Oh no, that one has road access. Road access right through the middle of it.
I'm sure it does. I'm just saying it's. I'm concerned about some of them because they don't.
Oh yeah, some of them don't.
Yeah, and you kind of go, oh, okay, this might be a problem.
Yeah,
and that's what you'd have to be concerned about is some of them. This is, it's a ways from Santa Fe, but it's not. You want to be in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and here's one. It's beautiful land in Connecticut, 75.6 acres for $500,000.
Well. Welcome to the Real Estate Channel. We would like to tell you about some of the coolest.
Listen to this one. Listen to this one. 7.13 acres in Hawaii for $1.694 million. Nah.
Again, it's probably a bargain.
Yeah.
But it all depends. Is it in the mountains? Is it in the rainforest? Is it along the coast? Can you see the coast?
You can.
It's all those questions.
You can't see the coast in there, but
that's terrific. But which island? Which island is it?
I know it just says Hawaii County. I don't know where that is. Hawaii County.
Probably the Big Island, but I'm not certain.
I'll map it.
Interesting.
The nice thing is there's a lot of. Oh no, you can't see the water. I thought you could.
Well, back out. Oh, you can't see it from the property. Okay.
No, it's landlocked. It's actually by a river.
Go. There you go.
But it's close.
I was ready to buy it. But
it's not far.
Forget it. Forget it now.
It is on. I'm still backing out.
Oh, you're just okay.
Yeah, it's on the Big Island.
Big Island, yeah. Interesting.
No, where's Hilo? Is Hilo on the Big Island?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hilo. That's Helocopter.
Yep.
Anyway, well, that's cool.
It's a neat thing. Yeah.
Those. And there are a few of them too. Landio is not the only one. I've been to some of the other ones, and it's cool to see some of those. And I love you get the property view, and you can see how to access it. Google Earth is so good about that.
Oh yeah,
just you can actually get to the exact location, and whoa, that is just the coolest ever.
Yeah, no, this stuff always fascinates me, and I love it.
But it's also just by its nature. If you're a scammer, it's a pretty good way to do scams with people.
Very true. Well, and
you buy the cheap land, and then you try to resell it. And I forgot to tell you, there's no water rights, or you can't build on that property because it's it's a national park or something.
Yeah,
but at least you own it.
Exactly. Well, and for some people, like my father-in-law, he does want land, and none of that other stuff matters to him because all he wants to do on it is hunt. So, and a lot of this land that's what it's there for.
Again, regulations. You'd have to,
right.
You got to do all that research and everything.
Well, he's in East Tennessee. There's no such thing as regulations.
That's right. The cops aren't going to chase you down when you've got 30-06.
Right. Exactly. So that was the other thing.
Well, that's cool.
This is, so to your point, one of the nice things about this one is they claim to research all of this, so those scammers don't have.
Oh, well, that's nice. That is a little bit of a relief, right?
Yeah, because I think they're actually I don't think this separates from the listing agents. I think they are the listing agent for all of these.
Cool.
If I'm correct,
I actually kind of like that. That's kind of that's an interesting difference between that and some of the others.
Exactly. So I think the other thing I really like about it, for the most part, and they're probably going to change because I have seen some in Tennessee that actually are in a neighborhood, but a lot of what they do is the land that no one, I don't want to say no one wants, but it's not that high value stuff. Like most of the Colorado stuff, I'm looking at one now, it's beautiful. Yeah. But it's in a place where not many people live, and it backs up to, a lot of different land and BLM land and stuff like that.
Oh, so, sure. Well, and you're right. That's do you want to? Is that where you want to be?
Right.
And actually living there, it's great to say, oh, I own this property and look at the mountain view, and that's awesome. Okay, but now to build a house, if you're going to do that, or you're going to pull a trailer there, first of all, is that allowed? Second of all, what are you going to do? Will they let you? Is there a place you can handle septic, or what do you do for water, or what all of those things are considerations. And I think sadly a lot of people just jump into some of that stuff without even thinking through the ramifications.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Interesting, but it's still cool to think about, and I've always enjoyed. I know you do too. I've enjoyed doing that. Just
I call it dreaming.
Kind of. It is kind of dreaming, but at some point you go, okay, where I'm sitting right now. At one point was a dream of a 2/3 acre piece of land, and we don't have to build anything. It would just be nice to have all right, well, now you're in a dang house. So,
yeah,
but and I still can't get cable here.
Oh,
no kidding. It's a year and a half since the house has been done. And
wow.
Yeah, and 2.5 since we started building it. Believe that or not. Jeez. But yeah, we still don't have cable, and they will not run it here. So I enter at our local cable company. I enter the address, and they go, I'm sorry, there is no house there. And I want to take a picture, selfie, and say, yeah, actually there is. Yeah, but idiots.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's okay. But that's why you have, Elon's satellite.
We have Elon, my buddy Elon and I, and we talk a lot, so he's
a great conversationalist.
How's your Starlink working? He's not. I love his ex posts, and what he has done, and I'm not going to go on a rant, but what he has done for free speech will not. I mean, it's appreciated now, but it will not be for the impact it's made for years into the future. I think it's such a huge thing that he has done. So that said,
what do you think about Elon moving all the rest of his companies to Texas? Do you think that'll actually happen, or do you think it's just
he got pissed off?
I agree. I think he has every intention to. I'm just curious to see if it actually happens.
Yeah, I don't know. So I follow two companies that daily I get their stock prices and values and where they've gone, just because I have other companies, obviously I'm in my retirement plan that I invest in and so on. But I always want to pay attention to Harley Davidson because I'm a Harley owner, and Tesla. Those are the only two. And every day I just look at those two, and I don't know, it's probably been 6 months ago. Tesla was like at $173 a share. And boy, a really smart guy should buy a bunch of Tesla stock right now.
Yeah.
And of course, now it's 243, and I'm
Sure,
an
of course.
idiot. But he will make money in spite of some of the stuff that happens.
Mhm.
And we've heard Teslas are, the quality isn't great, and it's whatever. That argument about many vehicles, but the guy makes some smart moves, and he's brilliant. There is little question about that. And
well, you know what?
I never thought he would make money on X, and I think it's going better than most people predicted.
Probably, well, yeah. But let's step back from that. I mean,
Sure.
I've read his book, so I feel like there's some context there.
Mm-hmm.
He does make money on some of the things, but you know what he does well, and what the vast majority of people are afraid of, including myself included, and probably what has held me back. But the ones that really succeed are the ones that are willing to make mistakes. And he has made some very big, some very expensive mistakes.
Sure.
You just don't hear about him because his successes are so massive as well.
Very well said. Very well said. And there is that. And if you talk to anybody who has succeeded, especially in a wealth situation, not just they've gotten rich. I'm talking about wealth, which is a whole different level.
There's a big difference between rich and wealthy.
Yeah. We're talking about, Elon and Steve Wynn and Richard Branson, and that's wealth. And so Shaq is rich.
Yes.
And he's actually probably approaching wealth. Shaq has made some really good, I won't want to rant about him, but I like, man, he just a quality class act guy.
Another good example is Ryan Reynolds, someone who went from rich to now he's approaching, if he hasn't already surpassed it,
good for him.
Wealthy. Yeah,
good for him. But the point is, there's a difference, and some people say, "Oh, I just want to be rich and get to that level." The wealthy people have made mistakes, many mistakes, often, and we look at it and say, well, I would make some more mistakes, but I can't afford to lose if I, make the mistakes. But Dave Ramsey has been broke a couple of times. He said.
And I pass his buildings, plural.
Yeah.
So I have friends that work for Dave Ramsey, and that was when he had one four-story building. He owned outright. It was tiny. It was they were crammed in there like sardines.
Where was it?
Now, in Franklin, Tennessee.
Franklin.
Yeah, right by the Cool Springs Mall.
Yeah.
And now he just built, all cash, by the way, built an entire complex. He's got a theater that sits up on top of the hill, and he's got two, and they're probably 6 or 8 story buildings that are connected to each other. Big glass buildings right down the street from the Nissan building. Well, a little bit further than that. But the complex is massive.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine the number of people that were crammed into that little building now spread out on this entire campus. And it's massive.
And
very impressive.
His company, and I'm sure it's not him personally, but there are no loans taken out on that stuff because that goes against his process.
Yep.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah.
But
I would never work for him. I honestly,
right?
And anyone who's listening who's one of my bosses, so, ignore this part. But I have consistently been reached out by that company to apply for certain jobs, or they're trying to recruit me for certain marketing jobs.
Sure.
And I've literally hung up on a lady before. I'm like, no, I'm not working for Dave. I don't like Dave. Not like what I do not like what he stands for. I don't like some of the things that happen inside of the organization.
I don't know anything about it.
Well, that's a whole that's an off-topic story we'll talk about later. But will never ever work for Dave Ramsey. I don't care if he pays me $1 million a year. I would not work for him.
Okay, well then, never mind. I'm going to leave that. However, what I'd say is this: it's kind of all or nothing mentality for me. If this is the only way you do it, and look, if it's worked for you, God bless you, Dave. That's great. That's fine. However, I still have credit cards, and he was, oh, that's terrible. Well, you know what? I pay them off, and that's how because it's pretty tough to rent a car without one. It's pretty tough to do things. So be realistic about about stuff, while at the same time giving people good advice. I get it. It's get out of debt, and it's smart.
Yeah.
Good gracious, we could all.
I'm not saying I haven't studied it
that.
and looked at it and tried.
Yep. Yes,
that has nothing to do. His message is not what I'm against.
Yeah,
it has other things.
The sitch, yes. Well, and you have insight into that because of where you are and your potentially your history as well. I don't know. I don't know him well enough, other than listen to a couple of YouTube videos or whatever. And largely, I agree with what he says. But is it in application? Is it always perfect? Yeah, it's going to be tough. So anyhow. But there's Dave, and Dave's doing very well. Good for him.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd say he's edging on wealth.
Several times. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say. But anyway, Elon is doing great, and he's a fun guy to watch. I can't really listen to him because he's not a great speaker.
No, he's not.
I don't mean in a bad way, but I would tell him to his face.
But that makes me feel better when I see, so the company that I work for has a new CEO, and I listen to him speak, and I'm like, wow, he's just not good. He's not very smart guy. I think he's going to take our company and really help it grow and stuff like that. But I look at him and hear him speak, and I'm going, okay, there's hope for me to actually be, because that was always one of my fears to ever becoming the head of a company. Is I'm like, I still don't know if I ever want to be a CEO, a true CEO, but if I ever wanted to be, I never thought I spoke well enough or had clear enough thoughts to be at that level, because you see a lot of CEOs who are extremely polished, who can right off the cuff come up with a really good speech and thank the right people and be very eloquent. And, half of the stuff that comes out of their mouth becomes quotes. That's my standard of a CEO. Yeah. But that's not necessarily the best CEO, right? No. So seeing people like Elon, like our CEO, I see them speak, and then I see their actions, and I'm going, yeah, but that's what I want to do. I can do that.
Yeah, if you're looking for perfection in presentation, I mean, it's one thing that may be important. And so in this season, we can talk about presidential candidates, and I'm not going to go into any of those specifics because, man, it's been shoved down our throats. Yeah. But what I will say is one of my favorites was Ronald Reagan. And just because like him or not, it didn't matter. The press hated his guts. If you are old like me, I know how they treated him, and it was not good. After he passed, of course, Reagan was awesome, which is all BS. The point is, though, he was such a good speaker, an actor, but such a good presenter. There was another guy from Tennessee, Fred Thompson. Remember him? No. Fred was also an actor and was a senator from Kentucky, or from, I think, Tennessee. I'm pretty sure Tennessee. And he was a great actor. He was on Law and Order, I think.
Interesting.
He was like one of the bigwigs, the captain or whatever, on Law and Order. And he was a politician and was a senator from Tennessee. He was so good, but he was an actor. And so that's fine. That should not say, well, he's an actor, he doesn't really care about people, or he's a terrible politician. Sure. No, maybe it's both. But if you had to pick one or the other, you need to make sure you're choosing the one that makes the most sense. And that is somebody who can get things done and care for people and all of it. So politically speaking, it's not just expedience or your ability to speak well.
Right. So here's another example, and another person, in my opinion, and I'll tell you why here in a second, but in my opinion, was given a raw deal by the media. I mean, let's face it, every single politician at some level is going to get the raw deal from the media. But George Bush, the young George Bush, W. So I, at that point, was in what you could kind of construe as the news media. And I was an editor and cameraman for a .com. It was called Small Business Television. It doesn't exist anymore. Cool. But
I mean, not cool that it doesn't exist. But
I mean, it was around for a long time. But it was really cool. And we went to a lot of events, and some of the events had some major speakers, including during one of the presidential campaigns with George Bush, and actually even further back, I when I was interning at what ended up becoming Clear Channel, but it was a different company back then, doing special events. I actually got to be one of the interns at a live session when he was still the governor, campaigning to be president in St. Louis. So that was a whole cool experience, which kind of leads into this. So I had the opportunity I wasn't the one doing the interview. My boss was doing the interview, but I obviously was shooting it. I was the cameraman. And so we got to sit down with John Kerry, got to sit down with his wife. That's a whole other thing. I won't even bring that one up until later, but
thank you.
And we saw his speeches, and we also got to see George Bush and Laura Bush and Dick Cheney and all of these people speak at one point. And the thing was, so we're in the risers, the media risers, and it's, you're crammed in there. Like, you can't get to the side of your camera once it's set up because you're just all so crammed in there. So you're right behind it. And so this is a good example. You were recording a speech, and this was actually at the National Restaurant Association is the one that I can think of, because you record while he was doing the speech. But one thing the president always did was a Q&A afterwards. Like, he would get from behind the podium and take a mic and start talking to people. So the speech and then the Q&A. When he was done with the speech, the entire riser clears out. All the news media, they're gone. So they missed the Q&A. We sat there because we had the luxury, because we're a .com, where everything we did was online, that we could just keep recording.
Wow.
And so we stayed for the Q&A. And I tell you, he was a horrible, horrible speaker. Horrible speaker. But you get him off the cuff where he's not tied to that teleprompter. And he was one of the most eloquent speakers you'd ever heard. He was remarkable.
Talking to people.
Just talking to people, just being very, and who was the opposite? Because Kerry would do the same thing. John Kerry. John Kerry was an exceptional speaker. He could read the teleprompter like nobody's business. But then you get him to do Q&A, and he fell flat on his face.
Well,
he
and it's interesting
relate to the common man.
How it's often just one or the other. Well, and there's a reason he couldn't relate to the common man, because you want to talk about wealth, that's his wife.
That's
Heinz Ketchup.
Yep.
She is. She's wealthy.
Yes. Yeah.
In a big way. But he doesn't. You wouldn't think it has to be one or the other, but for a lot, it is. It is that way, exactly.
It was remarkable to me how that.
I bet that was cool, though. I bet that was what a great experience to. It was. Regardless of, in hindsight, history judges us sort of harshly. And I'm speaking about him as well, but and Dick Cheney and several other people, and John Kerry. But to go through the experience is really the valuable part. That's awesome that you really
it was. That. And you know who the sweetest person I've ever met, and I actually got to meet her
aside from me.
Right, Laura Bush.
Sure. I've heard that, and her mother-in-law too,
really?
Barbara Bush. I've heard, and she was a stinker, but from what I understand, she was just a very special. Both of them were just incredibly warm and special people.
Which is cool. Rick, who is the governor of Texas after?
Oh yeah, I know who you're going to say. Yeah, Rick.
Come on, can't think of his name. Anyway, we had the opportunity to interview him while we were doing a show in Texas. And he was another genuinely nice person. Yeah.
Well, that's good. And you would see that. Shucks. Now I have to know, because I know exactly who you're talking. I can draw a picture of him. He had glasses. And
I don't remember glasses.
Yeah, he did.
He did run for president at one point too. I think he ran against Obama, if I remember right.
That sounds right. Well, how could we not? They start with the oldest one first.
Of course.
Come on. State of Texas. Okay.
We don't. It's probably obvious by now that we are not from Texas.
Sorry, Texans.
Yeah. Well, sorry, not sorry.
80. Oh my gosh. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, they've been around a little while, John.
Where Wikipedia just drives me crazy.
A few governors.
Yeah.
Governor.
Yes, it's here we go. Okay, this is much better. It's just the Wikipedia thing. Rick Perry. Gosh,
Rick Perry.
Drive me crazy. Yes, he probably not when he was governor. He didn't wear glasses. Probably contact lenses, but
probably
he did wear glasses as he was getting a little bit older. Yeah. Gosh, interesting. Some of these that I didn't even think about. John Connolly, man, back in the 60s was Connolly was a pretty big name. And
well, yeah,
actually, you know why?
Yes, I know why.
He was in the car with President Kennedy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's so. Anyway, that was. Cool. I don't even remember how we got on that topic.
Well, let's see what happens. There you are.
Amen.
That's what
Amen.
That's welcome to PoddiMouths.
Yeah, and I honestly can't think of where to go from there. So on that note. Speaking of, okay, maybe that's something we need to talk about really quick, and this will be a whole other episode. The dissolution of the company that the Grand Tour is part of. They have dissolved the company. They're no longer going to do anymore. Yeah. They went the whole gamut.
They were done with them, but I didn't know what the whole background was.
Yeah, I have no. I want to find out because I'm like, oh, that's really weird that they're going to dissolve the entire company and sell off assets. I'm like, what's going on? Because you don't usually hear that when someone they just end the show. You know,
they try to have some perpetuity to it, where there is you can subscribe for updates or whatever, buy videos.
It was I thought I need to research that. If anyone knows about that or has already done the research, please let us know, and maybe we can get John here.
Don't make us do additional research.
We never will. We're going to say we're going to. It's kind of like we're going to say we're going to.
I'll get right on it.
Exactly. We're going to respond to all of our social media. That's like us saying that. Yeah, it's not going to happen, folks.
Most of you know how to reach us, so just do it that way.
Exactly. I appreciate that. Send me a text message, Eric.
PoddiMouths.com.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just calling Eric out today. Eric, I haven't seen him for such a long time. One of my favorite times, though, and with you too, was when we went axe throwing.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
We need to bring that back up someday. That was a fun time. I still have pictures. I saw some pictures of that in my history.
Did you really?
Oh my
gosh.
Fun.
Yeah, that was a great time. We should definitely plan something, especially when we're down in your general area. So
true that.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope you have a great week. As John said, head up to PoddiMouths.com, check out the merch store, check out all of our socials, leave us some comments that we'll never see. And we might. That's not true. Them. That's not true. I have hearted and responded to some of Bill's comments. Yep. It's not that we don't. We just might take a little bit longer. It's not our day job. And John's not on social anymore, so that doesn't work.
Not much.
Yeah, he's
definitely
on X and TikTok, but other than that,
wow, I'm leaving all of that alone.
Threw you under the bus on that one. All right, everyone, you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you here, same bat time, same bat channel.
See ya.